Welcome to the Greener Way podcast, a show about people, planet, and purpose, and how investors and corporate leaders push forward in a complex world. Camille Soquet-Clerc from Bloom Impact, thank you so much for joining us today. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and Bloom Impact?
Of course. Thank you for having me. So my name is Camille. I'm the founder and CEO of Bloom Impact Investing. Our mission is to make climate impact investing easy and accessible. So our niche is climate impact. And the novelty here is to offer access to infrastructure and alternative investments that are driving positive impact outcomes.
So what is climate impact? Let's get into that a little bit more as well. Let's not presuppose that everybody in our audience knows what we're talking about.
Of course. And this is my favorite part and my favorite question. So essentially at Bloom, we have not tried to reinvent the wheel. And we have taken the best climate science already available because we know we already have the science in place to understand what needs to happen to navigate our clean energy transition and reach net zero. So Bloom has picked two models to define our investment universe. Globally, we have taken Project Drawdown. So Project Drawdown gives us close to 100 climate solutions. And we also have taken Climate Works for the Australian context. And this is exciting because it goes way beyond investing in a couple of solar and wind stocks. The full spectrum of climate solutions is really exciting and a lot broader than what a lot of people imagine. And I'll give you a few examples. For example, in there you have dynamic glass, recycled materials, waste management, reduced plastic pollution, reforestation. There are literally hundreds of solutions you can look at. And this is great news for a manager, for an investment manager, because it means you can diversify within the niche climate mandate. So this is good news.
Why has it historically been so hard for average investors to access a climate impact solution? And how does Bloom Impact solve that problem?
Absolutely. This is our passion, and this is what drove me to create the business because I experienced the difficulty myself. I wanted to invest in solar farms and wind farms and innovative clean tech companies I believed in, but I wasn't rich enough. And in practical terms, and more precise terms, I should say, I wasn't a sophisticated investor. I couldn't justify of a net wealth of 2.5 million. Or I wasn't a wholesale investor in some cases, wasn't able to invest $50,000 at a time. And the reason why there are these criteria in place for a lot of funds is twofold. The first one is protection of the investor. So typically investing in clean energy projects, so infrastructure, is fairly illiquid, meaning that it's not well suited for mums and dads who might need their money easily in and out as they would when they invest in some stocks on the ASX, let's say. And the second reason is less obvious. I think a lot of fund managers have not been interested in servicing the retail market because it is considered high touch, more heavily regulated. So it's simply a bit more effort. It's not impossible at all. It's just a lot more effort. But we know what Bloom does differently is using technology to service these customers at scale.
It's not every day you run across someone who decides to attack the problem of not being able to invest in climate solutions by creating her own fintech. How did this go? It wouldn't occur to me. So how did you get the idea of going for sort of a fintech or app-based solution for this problem?
Of course. So like I said, it came from my own frustration, and I think my background is in digital marketing and e-commerce. I've spent 10 years, so a large part of my career operating in highly innovative digital companies. So I had an idea of how we could service a lot of customers at scale and how easy the online experience can be, yet I couldn't see this reflected in the financial sector. So this is where applying a fintech model to an impact investing model appeared. But I'm going to add to this that another big driver to create Bloom Impact Investing for me was to create an impact at scale. And this comes from seeing the macroeconomic opportunity of the clean energy transition. Before creating Bloom, I came across a lot of data, and particularly one thing that has been very influential is the Deloitte Cleantech Index that has been tracking the performance of listed cleantech companies in Australia compared to the ASX 200. And this index has seen a 71% growth over the last 5 years compared to 36% for the ASX. So it's been outperforming the ASX, and I just thought it was just marvelous, this outperformance. And I thought, wow, if only there was an easy way to invest in these clean tech themes. But I would want this to be scientifically underpinned by a solid scientific research to make sure I'm actually investing in things that will make a positive impact.
And why particularly Climate Works and the other international alignment that you chose as well? I mean, there's any number of initials and acronyms and jargon that you can link an ESG or a sustainability investment to. Why was Project Drawdown and Climate Works Australia the answer for you?
Yes, so it all came from the IPCC report, so the Intergovernmental Panel. Essentially, this is the scientific reference in the world for the climate transition. And I think both Project Drawdown and Climate Works are applying findings from the IPCC report to their own modeling. So I have confidence that this is anchored in the best science available. And the reason why we've taken two models is because we needed a global context, because we invest in equities. And of course, a lot of clean tech companies are located overseas. But we also wanted an Australian context because a big part of our portfolio is targeting Australian assets. And as we know, Australia has a different shape, different opportunities, different characteristics that mean that something that is relevant for a global context might not be here. Mm-hmm. So, for example, hydrogen or nuclear. One model will say yes, another one will say no. So this was to get a bit of nuance in our positive screen.
So again, I'm interested. I mean, one of the things that strikes me is that, as you say, you come from a digital marketing and e-commerce background. How do you take sort of that experience of your career and apply it to the design of a product that's used to communicate how to invest positively in climate to sort of a broad market? How does that impact on the shape and design of Bloom Impact?
I think the biggest impact is the customer care. I think I'm very close to our customers, and I've done hundreds and hundreds of interviews with potential investors, potential users. And I think this is the biggest impact on our company, because in my previous trades, I have learned to design everything with the consumer in mind, because there's no way you can increase your e-commerce sales without servicing, without really putting the customer at the center of the experience.
And what are customers telling you? Let's get into that as well. We toss these terms around: mom and pop investors, retail investors, people on the street. But so who are the people in the Bloom Impact neighborhood?
Yes, I love our customers. So typically we have two profiles. We have a young professional female between 30 and 40. In some cases, this person has already kids. And she's a well-established professional, often a consultant or this type of job. And she wants an easy, simple way to do ethical investing, and she invests for the long term. She's not interested in trading meme stocks and trying to follow the craze. She wants real impact and solid, sustainable returns. The second profile is that 45 to 55-year-old men, often comes with a self-managed super fund. So Bloom accepts self-managed super funds, has a business and has some kids and is really worried about the impact of climate change. And so investing his wealth within the climate impact, within a climate impact framework is a way for this type of customer to make an impact and invest in the future of their kids in a way.
Mm.
And what these people are telling us is that they can see through the greenwashing. They are a lot smarter than what we think they are. They are starting to look into the holdings. So it used to be that investment firms would give the 10 top holdings and that would be enough. I think these days are gone and people want to know what they invest in, but more importantly, they want to know what the end impact is. And when they see top stocks like AWS, Google, they are not convinced that this is making a positive impact. So they want a deeper green, and they want transparency. So this is something we're really passionate about. We tell them exactly what we invest in, why, and what impact it's making.
This is one of the things that really fascinates me about this part of the investment sector, this ability to develop and tell a narration around what the outcomes are going to be. How do you leverage that storytelling, that narrative power? And how can you do that through the vehicle or the medium of a fintech?
The narrative we try to build at Bloom is that people can invest and do invest for themselves, build their own wealth and build their own impact, but we always remind our users and our customers that they invest for a greater purpose, something bigger than them. And in fact, in the app, we are super transparent and we actually give the total figure and we say, well done, thanks to you all, we have invested today it's 1.3 million into climate solutions. And we give the exact number of customers on the platform so that people can understand that if we want to make a greater impact, if we want the fund to succeed, we need more people to come on board. So there's really this community. And the second thing I wanted to add is, in terms of the narrative, we try to articulate and put some colors onto the world we want to build for tomorrow. And by this, I mean, we're trying to explain how exciting the clean energy transition is in terms of creating wealth, creating jobs, creating opportunities. And we do this by doing a lot of education about climate solutions. What are they? How do we get there? And what does it look like to transform our transport industry from, combustion engines to electric vehicles? And we try to not debunk, but go further than the obvious ones. So people think Tesla and, those big companies. But we say, look, there's also Clean Away, this beautiful company doing waste management. And look, there's also Sims, you've never heard of it, but they do metal recycling and they are having a massive impact. And we create those events so that people can actually meet directly with the CEOs of these companies or the head of ESG at these big listed companies. And we're trying to broaden the discussions around what to invest in beyond the obvious Tesla, Microsoft, Google, that often retail investors are falling into because that's the brands they know.
And so how's this working out, Camille? I think you're 3 months since you've officially launched. Where are you in terms of asset under management, and what are your customers responding to in terms of that that dialogue that you're starting to build around the stocks and the portfolios and that future?
Yeah, so we've had a good start, but we've launched in a challenging time. So we've launched early April. We have 1.3 million under management and 150 investors so far. So it's very much the beginning of the journey. But we are very proud of the performance of the fund. And our customers have been delighted to see that they've came for the impact, but they are actually getting good returns. In July, net of fees, the fund has returned 7.1% versus our benchmark 6.2. In the last 30 days today, we are at plus 10.66%. So I think it's just a delight for our customers to see that they can have both.
Well, I mean, it's interesting. Obviously, it's a challenging financial moment, a challenging economic moment. But given recent developments, the U.S. passing the largest climate bill in U.S. history, the election result here in Australia, building on to COP27, there's momentum at the grassroots. How do you take advantage of the fact that people are increasingly aligning life choices, whether it's politics or solar energy or investment choice? How do you see yourself building on that momentum and even taking a step in sort of shaping that momentum in future?
This is so spot on what you've just said. In fact, in all our communications, we have a climate finance news section. For us, it's really important to unpack the global context and the national context to our investors, because it justifies and gives some confidence into our investment mandate. And we say exactly what you just said. Look, the US is investing billions into climate change, and this is what it's going to mean for industries like solar and electric vehicles. And so we unpack the mega trends and we explain to our customers how they get exposure to this trend. So we go from the big news title, and we say, we think electrification is underway. Mm-hmm. And these are the companies that we think will benefit from it. We're not really trying to pick the winners, though. We try to give exposure to a theme with a broad range of, as broad as we can, range of companies. So in the electrification, we have, lithium miners, we have battery producers, car makers. We're trying to have the full spectrum. Yeah, I think that's the main way. And we also, through our community events, we are trying to put this discussion together as well, and make some links between how people use their money and what impact it makes. So Bloom is an investment product, but we want to be so much more. At the root of Bloom was a community who gathered every fortnight since 2019 to discuss sustainable finance and impact investing. And on Friday, for example, we're going to meet to discuss how can our super make a positive impact. So we're trying to have a conversation about everything that touches on money and climate impact. This is what we want to help people understand.
It's funny. I think last week it was all over the social media platforms. The meme that George Jetson is due to be born. The old Hanna-Barbera cartoon. He's due to be born at some point in 2022. So the future that we all grew up with thinking we'd see is rapidly coming to us. What would you like to see when you sit back and you envisage what 20 years, 30 years from now is going to look like? What do you see, and what role do you think Bloom is going to play in bringing that about?
I dream of a future where impact investing is just mainstream, absolutely mainstream. And I think we're already underway with ESG making great progress, and now every fund manager adopting these practices to drive better performance. I hope for a world where, I guess, financial literacy is better distributed amongst the population. I think this is also underway. The young generations are not waiting for financial advisors before they take an interest in finance. But now the question is, who will lead this conversation? Are we sure that now we have people's interest, but who will fill this gap? Is it, influencers on TikTok, or like who will make sure that this conversation delivers good outcomes for this new generation eager to get involved with investing in the finance world. And finally, I'm deeply concerned about climate change. I think the financial and human impacts are already unfolding, and I just I hope we'll be able to make the impact we can make. Some experts estimate that it would take 2% of the global GDP to fix climate change. So we know we have enough money to do it, but will we have the courage and the agility to act at speed is my concern. But I hope everything will accelerate quicker than what we think.
It will be interesting to see, and I think products that offer that ability to access with facility will accelerate that investment trend as well. In as much as it's the money. Yeah, go ahead.
Exactly. I'm sorry to cut you off. I'm just going to add, I'm well aware that Bloom is not going to fix climate change on it alone with my 1.3 million under management. But I think the question is broader than this. I think it's about changing minds. And I'd love to use Future Super as an example. They started 6-7 years ago now. They were the first fossil fuel free fund. 6 years in, they are now managing over 10 billion under management. They started from scratch and they've created a conversation, and now all the funds are following this fossil fuel. Not all, but many funds are now implementing this fossil fuel exclusion, and this is driving much larger outcomes. So I believe just in the ripple effect of how a small consumer movement can actually have a domino within the financial sector anyway.
I find Future Super really interesting as well, because it's not just the asset allocation, but it's also what they call the ladder of engagement. And so their relationship with their consumers and the way that they engage with customer service as well, as in terms of providing a model for how you can build. Yeah,
that's right. They've told people, here's your power. Take it, use it. Your super is not just an amount of money that sits idle. It's invested. It's creating a world. What world do you want? Well, at Future Super, we think it shouldn't fund the climate crisis. What do you think? And now people are like, oh, hold on a second. Actually, yeah, I do have a power because I'm part of this big crowd now. Because alone we think I have what? 20, 30, 40 $1,000 on my superannuation account. What's that's going to change? But suddenly, when you think that you are part of a crowd that owns 10 billion, you're like, maybe I can do. Maybe I can affect change.
And then, of course, Bloom Impact plays into that entire ecosphere, doesn't it? So
yes, we hope so.
So Camille, where can our listeners find Bloom Impact for general purposes and information only?
Of course. So Bloom is available to all individuals and self-managed super funds and trusts over 18 years old. You can find us online through our website, bloom-impact.com. And you can download our app to start your impact investing journey. Simply type Bloom Impact Investing. We are available on Google Store and Apple Store, sorry.
Marvelous. Well, Camille Soquet-Clerc, thank you so much for your time. It's been a real pleasure chatting to you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Pleasure. Thanks for listening to the Greener Way podcast. If you liked today's show, remember to rate and review us on your podcast platform and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss an episode. Any feedback? Contact us on podcast@fssustainability.com.au. I'm Rachel Allen-Backus.
The Greener Way podcast is a product of FS Sustainability, a show about people, the planet, and investing in our collective future. All information in this podcast is for education and entertainment purposes only. The Greener Way podcast gives listeners access to information and educational content provided by discussing numerous financial sustainable options and our featured guests. It is not intended as a substitute for professional, legal, or tax advice. The hosts of The Greener Way are not financial professionals and are not aware of your personal financial circumstances. FS Sustainability operates under an Australian Financial Service License and the exemption made available under the Corporations Act 2001 in respect to any information or advice given. Before making any financial decisions, you should read the product disclosure statement and if necessary, consult a licensed financial professional. For more information, head to the disclaimer page on the FS Sustainability website, fssustainability.com.au.